Forget everything you think you know about gladiators. And a documentary narrator painted them as bloodthirsty killers locked in endless battles to the death. But what if I told you much of that is a myth? Were gladiators truly savages or skilled athletes with fame, contracts, and fans, just like modern sports stars? Prepare to have your perceptions shattered, because the truth about the Roman arena is far more complex, fascinating, and shocking than you've ever imagined. The word gladiator comes from gladius, the Latin word for sword. They fought in grand arenas before tens of thousands, their every move echoing across the empire. But beneath the roar of the crowd, a hidden world existed, one built on politics, profit, and power. This is not just the story of warriors. It's the story of how Rome turned death into entertainment and men into living legends. Gladiator combat didn't start as entertainment. Its origins were ritual, part of funeral ceremonies. The earliest known fights date back to the 3rd century BCE, when slaves were forced to battle at the funerals of Roman nobles, meant to honor the dead with displays of courage and blood. Over time, what began as a grim offering to the gods evolved into a national obsession. By the 1st century BCE, gladiator shows had become Rome's biggest form of public spectacle, funded by politicians hungry for votes. The blood of the arena became a political currency. Movies would have us believe every match ended in death. But the truth? Gladiators were too valuable to waste. Each fighter represented years of training and heavy investment. Most fights actually ended when one gladiator was wounded or disarmed, not dead. Historians estimate that only about 1 in 9 fights were fatal. Many gladiators had long careers, with contracts, managers, and even fan followings. Some were freedmen who fought for glory or money. Others were slaves, earning their freedom one victory at a time. They lived under strict diets, trained daily in elite schools called ludi, and were treated by professional doctors. Gladiators weren't mindless killers. They were professional athletes in one of the most brutal sports on earth. Make no mistake, the games were massive business. Arena shows were sponsored by politicians and emperors who used them to win favor from the people. Emperor Augustus alone hosted hundreds of games, some lasting for days. The Colosseum, completed in 80 CE, could hold more than 50,000 spectators, roaring as lions, tigers, and warriors clashed under the sun. Tickets were free, paid for by Rome's elite. The people's gratitude was political gold. And behind every game was an economy: armorers, trainers, merchants, and the lanista, the manager who owned the gladiators, like modern-day sports agents. Let's talk about the men themselves, the faces behind the helmets. At a documentary narrator, the most famous of them all wasn't just a gladiator. He led a rebellion of over 70,000 slaves that nearly toppled Rome itself. His story became legend, symbolizing resistance and freedom. Then there's Flama, a Syrian gladiator who fought 34 times and won his freedom 4 times, yet refused it, choosing to remain in the arena. Why? Because for some, the sand and steel had become their identity. Others, like Priscus and Verus, fought in front of Emperor Titus. Their battle was so evenly matched that both men were granted freedom, a rare moment of mercy in the heart of violence. Gladiators weren't just survivors. They were celebrities. Women swooned over them. Artists painted them. Merchants sold souvenirs with their names. In many ways, they were the influencers of ancient Rome, living dangerously, dying young, and immortalized forever. So, what does the story of the gladiators really tell us? It's not just about blood and spectacle. It's about humanity's hunger for drama, competition, and power. Rome's arenas were mirrors of society, where life, death, and politics played out for all to see. Even today, in our sports, our media, our obsession with fame, echoes of the gladiators remain. So, next time you imagine a Roman fighter raising his sword beneath the roar of the crowd, remember, he wasn't just fighting for survival. He was fighting for meaning, for freedom, and for legacy. Because in Rome, to live as a gladiator was to die as a legend. History isn't what you think it is. Subscribe to Wealth Through Time and uncover the truth behind the myths that shaped our world.